Alright guys, such kind of again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Kenny has explained his side of the OpTic versus Vegas series this past weekend, admitting that OpTic did indeed get overconfident in the veto process, which hurt their chances in the series. But Kenny actually says this could be a positive thing going into the major, showing OpTic they need to absolutely lock it in and can't afford any mistakes like this when they play some better teams. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Firstly though, on Ranked, it's meant to launch today. Well, Season 1 Reloaded launches today. I think it's 9 AM Pacific, something like that, midday Eastern, 5 PM UK. I think that's the time they launch. Now, Ranked Plate was meant to come out then, we thought, but apparently not. For whatever reason, they, well, will not make it available immediately after the update. It will instead be waited on to perform checks before enabling the modes. So I don't know whether this is just developer speak for, sorry guys, it's not ready, or whether you guys think that actually, no, it is going to be ready, but they just have to perform checks. I don't know. I kind of want to believe the latter, but I'm very much hoping that they don't promise us Ranked on the 17th. And all of a sudden it's like, well, actually, no, sorry, guys, it's going to be the 17th of February, for example, because the checks are taking longer than expected. Like when XDefiant was saying, oh, yeah, guys, don't worry, we've just got a couple of things to figure out before we can launch. And here we are like 4 or 5 months later, and it's still not coming out. So hopefully that's not the case. I know many were looking forward to Ranked. We got the video on the Breaking Point channel looking at all the classes you guys will want to use. But we do need Ranked to launch first. That is the top priority. We also, though, have this. So Rio comes out today. Greece is possibly a competitively viable map. It's been in the game for some time. The pros haven't tried it though, so they don't know. But Rio, definitely looking at the layout and watching this video here of the way that the map is structured, I really like the look of this one, to be honest. And well, it seems that others do as well. These are the overviews of the map if you guys haven't seen it before. These are the hard points as well. Not exactly sure what the rotation is here, whether it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something like that. Kind of interesting hardpoint locations, I'm not going to lie, because none of these have like a clear back spawn, you know, like if there was a hardpoint that was down here or like back in this bottom right corner or up in this top right corner, there'd be a very clear, you know, anchor spawn and the other guys would spawn out, whereas some of the hills that are nearer the middle, it becomes a bit more difficult to do that. Like, what is the spawn you've got to use for this? Most of these hills are going to be the type of hills where you have to push out both sides and then hold it that way rather than just holding an anchor spawn. So I don't know how that's going to work for competitive play, but can it be any worse than Terminal? Probably not. Should it be better than Invasion? Quite possibly, but we'll see. Obviously, the spawns matter a fair bit in terms of that as well, even if the layout is actually viable. These are the bomb site locations as well, so we'll see Rio today. We'll see if it's any good today, but OpTic already asking the question, should Rio be added into the competitive map pool? So, you know, maybe a bit too early to give an answer either way on that, but honestly, you know, I'll just chuck it in at this point. Now, another bit of drama here you guys might have seen the other day that I thought was definitely worth mentioning. So this is not the official Los Angeles Gullers account, but the Subliners, they, a couple of weeks ago now, maybe a couple of months ago already, when Los Angeles Gullers were going to shut down or be on the verge of not doing anything, New York Subliners did this social media thing where they would report on the LA Guerrillas matches, because LAG don't really tweet about it themselves. So Subliners, they put their like Los Angeles Guerrillas cap on, and then they become the LAGliners or whatever it was, and they will do the social media updates for the Guerrillas. So pretty funny stuff. But anyway, they then decided to release a t-shirt here with the logo, so it's the Subliners logo on the hat and then on the Los Angeles Guerrillas logo itself. They launched this as a piece of merch, and then, I mean, within about a few hours, they deleted it and now are refunding all the orders that they got for it. So this really shouldn't be a surprise. I'm just a bit confused by this because it didn't seem like this was a collab, right? I don't imagine that LAG would be happy with the implications of this. So it's almost like Subliners just put together some merch that we're using the LAG logo without permission, which is probably never going to end well. So I don't know if LAG got in contact and was like, hey, we didn't give you guys permission to make money from our logo, so we're going to be shutting that down. So that's basically exactly what happens. So I don't know what you guys think about this, what side of it you fall on. I'm just a bit confused why they either thought this would work, or maybe it was just a marketing stunt from start to finish and they didn't really ever think that they would actually be able to get these sold. There was also some drama, so, you know, we know how it goes nowadays. Some quality people starting up podcasts, and these guys are making the argument that being the best Warzone player takes way more skill than being the best CDL player. I don't really want to go into the sides of this story because it's just, there's so many ways to shut these type of ideas down. Obviously, Octane says anyone having access to a podcast equivalent to this one is the downfall of humanity. And Nature comes up with a pretty interesting explanation from his side on, look, if you were, let's say, landing low town or whatever, take half of that drop zone and you spawn in there against 4 players that are as good as or better than Biffle, try and get in a hill for 250 seconds before they do, you know, no BS. And that's really the main thing I would say, is that sure, there's a lot of skillful Warzone guys, but at the end of the day, they are playing against pub kids, right? It's a little bit of a different story when you're playing for $1 million against the other best players in the world, but you know, I don't think this requires too much more explanation. This past weekend, OpTic, of course, only played 1 series. They have 2 more upcoming before the end of the stage this upcoming weekend, including a big one, let's not forget, against FaZe on the Sunday. But it was a very interesting series against Vegas. They went down 2-0, brought it back with a reverse sweep, and Kenny was talking a fair bit about it. He did a new episode of his Listen In, I think he's going to be calling it now, where he kind of reviews the games, but you know, he can obviously talk about the other matches, but the most interesting really is when he talks about his own matches, because he actually knows what went on. So we talked about it at the weekends, that if OpTic were going to lose to Vegas, the only way was that they got complacent, right? Vegas are a significantly weaker team, weak enough that OpTic, after realizing, okay, we started badly here, could really just flip a switch and win 3 maps in a row without too much pushback from the Vegas side of things. But look, they're still professional players at the end of the day. If you try and completely disrespect them by either, you know, not warming up properly or choosing maps in the vetoes that potentially could come back to bite you, they still have the ability to win. So Kenny explains that, yeah, in the veto process, they should have done things differently, right? They were beholden to some degree to their own decisions. It wasn't like, you know, Karma or JP made these calls for them. They were asked the question, okay, what do you want to do? They decided to basically, Kenny doesn't say it in these terms, but pretty much to ego chow them on bad side Skid Row. They didn't have to do so. Kenny says that they could have just picked Invasion and then played Skid Row good side probably later on, but they wanted to, you know, prove they can still win from bad side Skid Row. Chilled Vegas on it when they weren't really, you know, fully heads in the game, and they got exposed.
We trolled the vetoes, and it was partly our team. Nothing to do with our coaching staff, because at the end of the day, our coaching staff is going to ask us what we want to play. So here we had the opportunity to pick Invasion first hard point, and forced and like basically have Skid Row good side, assuming that they pick Skid Row. But we were overzealous and just picked Skid Row bad side purposely because we were undefeated on it, and we are really good at Skid Row. And Vegas came out swinging. We weren't shooting too well. In particular, I wasn't shooting too well. The team just wasn't shooting too well, and we were kind of just like, we just got smacked in the mouth. I mean, it's a hard map to bring it back, and we definitely had some moments where we could have. We've already addressed the issues on how we were supposed to bring the map back as a team, and everybody's on the same page. We obviously know that that's for us to be a top 4 team and be competing against other top 4 teams. We cannot have matches like this. So as a team, we all know this, but for me, I think for me, it was a good test for us, because it was one of our first tests where like we were playing a team that we thought we were really confident versus, and they came smacked us in the mouth, and it was kind of like, what was our regain? How do we rebound from this? Map 3 high rise, I go 30 and 15 2.0, and I have almost 6k damage. For any fans of us, we're very, very confident. I mean, this whole series, we never felt like we were out the series, and we were super confident. Yes, we lost the first 2 maps convincingly. We weren't shooting well. It's gonna happen, and there's just no excuse to it. We just can't allow this to happen versus the top 4 team. We need to come out hot, and we know this as a team. So we have a week to prepare for our next 2 matches, and that's basically like the idea going into these next scrims is like, let's not have bad non-productive days of practice, because at the end of the day, we could just lose to any team. So let's make it to where we can't lose to any team, and make sure we're competing for the chip and just feel informed going into the tournament, because right now we do feel like we're almost there, and we have a week to get there. So it's lock-in time.
So this was that series, if you guys didn't see it the other day, losing 251-31 on a Skid Row, and Kenny was saying that it was really that map 3 that turned things around when he had, you know, an insane amount of damage, 30 and 15 to get the win there, and then the momentum, of course, was back in OpTic's favour. But very interesting from the OpTic side to kind of, look, Kenny admitting this publicly, that, yeah, the way they went about the series was not the way they should have done, and he actually went on slightly later on to discuss how the FaZe guys, they played against Vegas, of course, as well. I guess we can have a look at that real quick here, when they played FaZe just afterwards and got slammed by FaZe. Now, map 1, again, it was 250, 225, kind of competitive. We didn't get to see it, though, unfortunately, because the stream was having problems. But Kenny said that this is the type of series that you want to have. When you're a top team, you're playing a weaker team that you should beat, you want to go in there and get the job done emphatically, rather than kind of messing around like OpTic did in the series. But it's always a discussion point. We know that Crim6 and others have mentioned this in the past as well, that over the course of a season, OpTic are always going to be very good at some point, and when they are, they get gassed up big time, right? Biggest fan base, everyone say, oh, Pred's unbelievable, Kenny's unbelievable, they're looking really good, and, Crim6's opinion was that kind of gets in your head as OpTic to some degree, so you start to think that maybe you're better than you are, and then you go into series, maybe more confident than you should be. That's probably always going to happen to some degree with the nature of things. The big point really that OpTic have to deal with is the accountability, and this is what I think Kenny will really bring to the table here, and I think he is in the discussion that he just gave. Sure, maybe you get complacent in some series, you get overconfident in some series, that can happen. The question is, though, can you recognize that it happens and ensure that it doesn't happen again in important circumstances when you play better teams? Because it seems they thought they could beat Legion by just, rocking up and just getting the job done, which, to be fair, eventually they did. But, if they think that about Legion, they could also theoretically think that about a team like Miami or a team like Boston or a team like, Surge potentially. And if that happens on LAN in an important moment, then things might not go their way. So you've got to ensure that you're always locked in. Against Vegas, they can get away with it. Against other teams, they might not be able to. And Kenny clearly recognizing that, okay, if they'd done the vetoes differently, if they'd actually warmed up maybe probably, I don't know, because they weren't shooting great map 1 anyway, probably because they thought they were going to get the job done regardless, then they would be in a much better spot. Because once they get firing on all cylinders, there's no doubt that they can compete with teams like FaZe, New York, Toronto, if not be the best in the entire league. And there's many reasons why. Even Dashy's numbers are a testament to this. The only player in the league to have a non-traded kill percentage greater than 80, which is significantly higher than Scrappy and significantly higher than the average as well. Also getting loads of hill time. This is probably more, this depends on playstyle more so than like individual skill, but it still gets the point across that these guys are being very impactful. But as Kenny said towards the end of that analysis there as well, I'll just share for you guys here the Modern Warfare 3 modes KD leaderboard so far. Kenny not appearing on any of these, but well, as you guys can tell, the top 5 of every mode apart from Control with Gwyn is just players of the top 4 teams somewhere or another. And it's not really so pretty on the other side. There's no player that appears on all of these, I don't believe. So I guess, well done to the players that managed to avoid being in the bottom 5 for every single mode. But Kenny said towards the end, they need to ensure that they're locked in and don't suffer in any regard with feeling like, they can have unproductive days of practice and actually get away with it. The implication I thought there from Kenny was that maybe they've had a few days over maybe the New Year period when the scrims have maybe gone okay, but they haven't feel like they've learned enough or taken enough steps forward and maybe an unproductive day of practice. They need to ensure that they avoid those at all costs, because sure, you can beat these lower tier teams without trying too much, it seems, and OpTic did manage to do that by the time the series ended. But they've then seen the very next day that FaZe came in and 3-0'd them with basically no issues at all. So OpTic know that's the level they need to get to, and Kenny clearly realizes that. So I think that's the difference really with OpTic. This actually could prove to be one of the most important series they win or just play in general, because it goes to show that maybe, after dominating things before Christmas and beating Carolina in the way that they did, maybe the feeling was that they, where they are is going to be fine. Kenny knows, of course, that's not going to be the case. There's more challenges to come, and if they want to really compete at the major, they need to level up their game plans inside of practice and actually in the matches themselves. But it's that feature of accountability that I'm not sure previous OpTic teams have had when they run into situations like this, but I really do think Kenny brings to the table, and Karma and JP, of course, as well. I'm sure involved in that one. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.